Welcome to Robotics and Automation News webinars, where you can be part of a global event without leaving your home or office. Attend our live webinars and communicate directly with influential professionals in your industry.
Hello, my name is Abdul Montakim. I'm editor of Robotics and Automation News.com. In this interview, I speak to Akash Gupta, co-founder and chief technology officer at GreyOrange, one of the world's leading suppliers of warehouse automation systems, including autonomous mobile robots.
My name is Akash Gupta, and I'm one of the co-founders and CTO at GreyOrange.
Right, and as part of your job, what's the basic things that you do? I know you, as a senior person, you probably have hundreds of tasks and things to oversee and do, but try and give us a brief overview of your typical day or week.
Sure. So yeah, I think I would say I would say divide my job role into I would say two streams. One is of course as a CTO and then as a co-founder. And as a CTO, I think the role is to make sure that we have a robust technology architecture. We have a very good understanding of what needs to be done from the customer perspective, from the product perspective, and where the industry is going. Provide thought leadership to the industry, and of course, as a co-founder perspective, the role is all about ensuring that our culture is intact, ensuring that we as a company we are providing the most reliable and innovative solutions to our customers, and again make sure that our organization is growing and is kind of ready for the next phase of growth.
Right, and just for the audience's benefit, I'm sure GreyOrange is very, very well known by now by our audience, but just new people who may be seeing this. GreyOrange is one of the probably the largest automation led warehouse robots company. I'm not getting my words out right, but yeah, you've pioneered various things, including the use of these machines, which are called AMRs, often autonomous mobile robots, those wheeled platforms, wheeled little boxes. You also use robotic arms, and I think these robotic arms are part of your solution, or one of your solutions. But tell us a little bit about the technology that you deal with. I think the first time I heard about you, um, it was more about software and conveyors, and then AMRs came a bit later. I may be mistaken about this, but tell us how you evolved as a company in terms of your use of technology and application of different technologies?
Sure. Yeah, so I think from the very beginning, within GreyOrange, the thought process is to kind of build a strong combination of software and which can very intelligently and in real time orchestrate different processes in the fulfillment center, using robotics and other types of devices. I think it's a combination of very, I would say, closely integrated, software and robotics together that makes, I would say, GreyOrange a unique proposition. So it's you can call it as a software-led robotic automation, I would say, product portfolio. And again, through our gray matter as a fulfillment operating system, we cover pretty much end-to-end orchestration of the fulfillment center. In fact, we truly believe that today fulfillment is not limited to just warehouses, and it is fulfillment happens through warehouses, stores, micro fulfillment centers, and through gray matter we orchestrate different processes in all these types of fulfillment nodes, in combination with different robotic technologies that are part of our, I would say, certified ranger network. So gray matter is basically well integrated with different robots in the certified ranger network. Again, in fact, certified ranger network is basically a network of technologies that are developed by us, but also a lot of third-party technologies that we have seamlessly integrated with.
Right. So I'm just clicking around your website, the GreyOrange website, and I found obviously the page that I think it talks about the software, which is called Grey Matter, which you've mentioned, fulfillment operating system. And also, of course, you've got your robots here as well. And yeah, you bring these things together and provide solutions. Is there opportunities to provide sort of ready-made solutions? In terms of is every customer different? Do you have to customize your solution for them? How long does it take to sort of figure out what they require, or have you got different solutions for different size warehouses? How does it work in terms of?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think through through gray matter and ranger robot series, we have ready-made solutions for different types of warehouses. In fact, I would say one of our I would say core value proposition to the customers is that we can pretty much go live in 12 weeks time frame. There are places where we have from the date of start of the project, we have started shipping in 3 months. So yeah, I think we have very clearly, I would say, laid out solutions that uses our products for different types of warehouses, different industries. Our focus on three industries, which is apparel, home improvement, and general merchandising, has been, I would say, pretty persistent. Very recently, we have also started doing solutions for, automotive industry and pharma. But yes, there are very clearly, I would say, defined solution for these industries, and within these industries, different types of, fulfillment, I would say, nodes. And that's basically what we present and go live with our customers.
Right, we're just looking at some video in the background of your website. It's very obviously very impressive, huge warehouses, lots of robots, different types of robots, ones that lift and move shelf units, ones that have small amount of conveyor belt on top of them. I can't remember what they're called now, but those things that move boxes from one place to another individually. Yeah, how is it? I mean, you're one of the founders, so I don't know if you imagined that things would get so complex and sophisticated with so many different types of technology and such a big market as well over the last, I don't know, 3-4 years, maybe 5 years. It's really expanded hugely. There's so many more warehouses and companies adopting robotics. What What's your experience been? I mean, have you been surprised by how well the market itself has grown, how quickly the market has grown, and how would you say you've benefited from that in terms of expansion of your own business?
Sure, sure. Yeah, so I think, as a founder back in 2012, 2013, when we were kind of designing the whole concept of, gray matter, we were, I would say, pretty clear that, there are going to be multiple technologies that we will have to support, on gray matter because, we truly believe that, I would say, there would be different technologies that will be required for different processes in the warehouse. So gray matter from the very beginning was designed to orchestrate and work with different technologies in a real time and efficient way. But from the market perspective, I would say our bet on the market was more because we were seeing that the two, I would say, industries that or two parts of this whole network that were evolving were manufacturing with industry 4.0 and different other technologies. Manufacturing was evolving, and similarly with the penetration of internet, e-commerce and things like that, the consumer was the consumer nature was evolving. So I think our bet at that point of time was that as consumer demands evolve and as manufacturing becomes more and more advanced, the supply chain will have to step up to kind of meet the needs of modern commerce. But of course, I think the rate at which it has, I would say, evolved is pretty good. And of course, with COVID, the whole industry has accelerated by at least 5 years that we see. So yeah, I think COVID has also played a pretty, I would say, strong role in accelerating the whole industry in last last 6 to 12 months. Um, and of course, for a company like us who have been, I would say, spending time in educating customers, in last 5 6 years, I think it's great to see that people understand, the value of technologies like gray matter, which kind of flexibly orchestrates multiple technologies. I'll just give you an example. We have one of our customers who was running a fulfillment center driven by gray matter and different Ranger technologies. Before pandemic, they were doing 20% e-commerce from their fulfillment center and 80% retail. And then the pandemic hit, and pretty much overnight we helped them to kind of ship 60-70% e-commerce and 30% retail from the same fulfillment center, same software, same technologies, just by making some of the flow and configuration changes within the software. And I think that's where people start realizing the power of having a advanced, I would say, software and robotic technology driving their fulfillment centers, because then it became extremely flexible for them to kind of handle such challenges which come their way.
I think it's I really appreciate the insight and your own estimation of how quickly, how much the coronavirus pandemic has accelerated the market. You're saying it's kind of leaped forward by 5 years or so. It was already going quite fast. This market, there were more people buying these kind of robots. Before the pandemic, it was expanding very rapidly. And yes, the pandemic obviously made people stay at home and shop online more, which meant people, retailers or people selling things had to improve their operations. in their warehouses if they were going to expand quickly and keep up with the demand. How do you think? I mean, the other interesting thing about GreyOrange, of course, is believe it's an Indian headquartered company, which is very unusual in the sense that I don't know, uh, I don't see that many robotics companies emerging out of India. I mean, is it the market you're talking about, the customers that you're talking about? I think I'm correct in saying that they're fairly global. It's not India only or even Asia only. I mean, describe the geographical market, and then we'll talk about the maybe how you developed the technologies fast enough to keep up with the market. But yeah, what's the geographical spread of your market like?
Yeah. So I think while the company originated in India and was prevalent in India for first few years, I think today we are fairly globally placed. I would say both from the product development engineering perspective, from our sales and marketing, I would say organization perspective, from our operations organization perspective, from the market, today I would say. US is our largest growing market, and I would say our large part of revenue comes from US and Europe, and of course today Asia is I would say a smaller part of our proportion of the revenue. US plus Europe would pretty much be two-thirds of the revenue from the market perspective, and I think in foreseeable 4 or 5 years, that's how we believe the proportion is going to be.
Yeah. So just for the audience who maybe some members may be new, a lot of people know what I'm going to be saying. This kind of robot, this thing here, these wheeled robots, started off with Kiva Systems. I think there's a company called Kiva Systems which developed this kind of robot. It was the only company to do so. I think I'm talking about 10 years ago now, and maybe more. And Amazon bought them out for a huge sum of money. I think it was more than $500 million or something. I can't remember. But then it became very difficult to buy these Kiva Systems. Amazon basically kept them for themselves. And Amazon, since then, grew so rapidly that they became one of the world's largest logistics companies. And maybe these robots had something to do with the efficiency of their supply chain. I don't know what you think, but this kind of robotic development, I was thinking about how when you just roboticists, what kind of problems did you encounter, or what kind of I don't know, achievements would you say highlight the last 5 years or so in keeping up with technological demands and being able to develop these things? I mean, this is still quite unusual, a robotic arm in a warehouse. For you to do it, I mean, it required quite a lot of technological research and development, I suppose. How did you manage that?
I think I would say the thought process always have been to closely listening to our customers. I personally have spent lots and lots of time in fulfillment centers with our customers and start kind of understanding what are the core problems, and I think the technology is always or should always be driven by core customer problems, and I think we have always kind of been very, very close to customers, their operations, to start understanding what their core problems is, to kind of start defining a problem statement that is very, very relevant. And from technology perspective, I would say the challenges are always to get the right talent, to make sure that the talent understands the industry, to make sure that you are setting up the right processes within the company for reliability, and making sure that you aren't letting innovation I would say slow down in the company, because a lot of times what happens is once you release your first version of the product, you kind of go into a phase where you spend a lot of time on that, and kind of innovation slows down. So I think we have always been, I would say, very consistent around our resources, very well spread, and kind of operating the current versions of the product versus I would say making sure that we are innovating fast enough, solving more and more problems for our customers. So yeah, I think those have been some of the, I would say, ways we have made sure that we have been I would say always at the bleeding edge of the technology, bleeding edge of the I would say innovation in the solutions we give, bleeding edge in terms of reliability. Today, our gray matter, which is a global I would say platform, runs at 99.5% plus uptime globally, and again kind of and that keeping to that has always been a technological challenge as you kind of expand. Another part that gray matter is just one I would say code base across our customers. So there is pretty much zero customization irrespective of which customer we have installed it in. And I think fighting some of these challenges of making sure that we are building a strong product rather than lot of custom services has been challenging, and we have been making sure that we stick to our vision that we set back in 2012 2013.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this video and mentally marking some certain sections because I wanted to ask you about them. There's this section here, which shows this robot in a place where a human picker would be. A human normally in a warehouse, or typically, or maybe in some with some companies, the solution is that the robot would bring perhaps your company as well, the robot would bring the shelf unit, and the human being would reach out and pick out items in order to create the order, different items, and create a single order. And that is something that previously was a bit too difficult for robots. And here you are showing a video that where a robot is doing that human picker's job. Now, I know it's probably a couple of years old, this solution, but this kind of thing has been, am I correct in thinking that it has been quite a challenging thing to solve in terms of this part of the picking, or this part of the process in a warehouse?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, when you look at robotic picking from vertical planes, right? There are two types of robotic picking. One is picking from the top, from a tote, and second is picking from a vertical plane like a shelf. And I think picking from the shelf has always been, I would say, the most challenging technology problem. Given that it includes, I would say, a large part of, I would say, fundamental. Robotic challenges to be solved, and so yeah, I think today, I can probably say that GreyOrange with some of our technology partners have been pretty much the only players in the market that has solved that problem. In fact, as we speak, we have also solved this problem for apparel industry, which is again one of the toughest challenge to kind of pick apparels from the shelf in an autonomous way. So yeah, I think it has taken a lot of, I would say, technology investment from us and some of our partners to kind of get where we are from autonomous picking perspective.
Yeah, it's a very interesting system, and yes, it's not. I don't think anybody else is. I can't think of anybody else right now who's doing this. The other interesting thing about using a robotic arm in a warehouse is, of course, there are machines now being developed called. I think they're technically or given a label or name called industrial mobile robots, I believe, the IMRs, which and basically what they, and I'm sure you know, but just for the audience, yeah, so they're often, they're basically robotic arms that are perched on top of things like this. So the AMRs. So if you can imagine these AMRs going around the warehouse, but instead of carrying a shelf unit on their back, that have a arm on their back, robotic arm on their back. And I suppose it would be doing more or less the same thing as this one is doing, which is picking out items from the shelf unit. But the shelf unit may be, you know, in fixed locations at various places in the warehouse. Is that something that you're interested in, these IMRs, or what do you have to say about them? It's a kind of a new class of robot, I think.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think we have been, I would say, evaluating that. Although the efficiencies that we get today are not of the nature where it can be, more commercially feasible. So I think, just direct picking through robotic arms over, autonomous mobile robots is still at the stage of interesting technology, but I think it has some time to kind of go to that maturity where it can be more commercially viable.
Yeah, these are very new areas, and it's something that I don't know how efficient or productive a human picker would be compared to. I mean, you'd probably know, but yeah, actually, let's talk about that. I mean, I'm told that these kind of robotic and automated systems can be 8 to 10 times more productive in terms of throughput or number of things, number of orders fulfilled. So instead of this robot, if you had a human picker, actually, overall in the warehouse, if it was an old-fashioned warehouse with few robots or no robots, compared to the automated systems that you're providing, what's the kind of difference, if you like, if it's
Yeah.
quantifiable in terms of how much more productive a warehouse can be? And other just as a other thing as well, um, what percentage would you say of warehouses are still yet to be automated and roboticized?
Yeah. Yeah, so let me answer those questions one by one. So from the efficiency increase, I would say depending upon the level of automation you implement, I would say a highly automated will be in the range of 8 to 10x, and let's say a mid automated would be somewhere in the range of 5x or so from the increase in efficiency perspective when we talk about the complete fulfillment center level. um, I would say technology penetration or automation penetration, non-traditional automation penetration. I'm not talking about conveyors and sorters. I think conveyors and sorters are still have a fair amount of penetration. But if you look at non-conveyor belt automation, I think it's still in single digit. It's still very very less from the penetration perspective. It's still in the single digits.
That's interesting. Even though it's in single digits, the number of warehouses that are roboticized is still a very huge growing market. Obviously, giving rise to companies like yours, you've generated or raised a lot of money in capital for your operations. So yes, it's really interesting. I think as more and more warehouses take on this technology, the market will grow even more. What's the if you don't mind me asking, what's the competition been like? What's it like being in a market where I think 5 years ago you probably didn't have even half the companies sorry, the number of companies in the market supplying similar, not the same kind of things, has doubled. There's more companies now offering automated systems of some kind, maybe even robots, in this market. And how are you dealing with competition and things like that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think number of, I would say, automation players, have been increasing. I think how we look at it, competition is today we see competitions for a particular product line, right? So there will be people who would be competing with us for, let's say, Ranger Move Smart, right? The board that you saw carrying individual boxes. There are companies that would be competing for just the goods to person solution. There are companies that are competing for, I would say, intralogistic, applications. So I think we are seeing a lot of, companies coming in these point solutions. Though when you look at strength for GreyOrange, the strength of GreyOrange comes from a combination of gray matter that can, I would say, operate, with multiple such technologies, orchestrating end to end of the, fulfillment center. So I think that part is still fairly unique and normally kind of gets, I would say, competed with a lot of system integrators rather than, product, companies. And I would say, given the size of the market and, where we are in the industry, I think competition is good. Industry needs a lot of education, and as there are more players in the industry, more I would say marketing dollars are being spent in educating the market, and then of course once the market gets educated around the value of these systems, they would choose the best possible technology out there for long term.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that's most of the questions I've got for you. But let's just talk about the future in terms of I don't know, business and technology. You're a technologist yourself. I did find your picture just a moment ago. Let me see if I can find it again. You obviously got a very impressive background. You've studied and been all around the world. Here we are. So yeah, what do you think the future is for your company over the next, let's say, 5 years? So much has changed over the last 5 years. It's difficult to think that you could predict, anybody could predict what will happen in the next 5. But yeah, give us an idea of what you think will happen to warehouses and the technologies we see inside them. And in terms of business, how you think GreyOrange might grow. I mean, certainly in terms of warehouses, as you said, if only, let's say, 9% of warehouses overall are roboticized, automated, then you're talking about another 90% to grow into. So it's a huge potential market, and it should keep you busy for probably another 5 years. But what do you think is going to happen over the next 5 years for yourself and GreyOrange and the technology and business?
Yeah, from let me talk from two perspectives, industry and then GreyOrange. I think when you look at industry, I think I would say and as you said that it's just a prediction, but I would say this number going in the range of 40-50%. I would say from the adoption of technology perspective, and I think it's both. It's just not hardware technology, but also it's also about evolving the software that kind of orchestrates or operates the warehouses. So I think we'll see industry adopting I would say new age software technologies as well as robotic technologies from that 10% or 8-9% to 40-50%. From GreyOrange perspective, I think the vision is to become the platform of choice, for our customers, where they can, I would say, operate their fulfillment networks on gray matter, and use different, technologies, I would say, supported in gray matter. And of course, today we have, four such technologies, or, in fact, this has also increased to close to 8 to 9 different robotic technologies that we support today. But within 5 years, I'm pretty sure we'll be supporting, I would say, more than 50, technologies, robotic technologies on gray matter. So we envision gray matter as becoming the platform of choice for our retailers, so that they can reliably run their fulfillment network on that software, and also have a large choice of robotic technologies to choose from, whichever fits best for their fulfillment network.
Right, and just one last question, as a bonus, if you don't mind me broadening it out and asking you to speculate, or
Sure.
give you a view to a broader thing, I find it really interesting that these little robots with these wheels and autonomous movement and things like that, I mean, essentially, they're kind of, in principle, they're like autonomous vehicles that are on the roads in public, the cars, the driverless cars that we all hear about a lot. I mean, they're now growing. That market is growing partly because the niche that's been identified is like private industrial estates or airports, where the grounds are owned by one particular company or owner, and the vehicles can be, don't need specific public road licenses, which are more complex. So you get a lot of autonomous minibuses and things like that, like in the Olympics and so on, or maybe an industrial trade show. For me, it's very interesting that obviously, in principle, these are autonomous vehicles. This, just like the others are, except these are smaller and confined to a warehouse. I mean, is that something that I don't know if the two technologies share any sort of software or have similarities, maybe the SLAM system or something that prevents them from bumping into each other and things like that. I mean, what do you think of that whole autonomous vehicle trend? And I don't think GreyOrange will, I don't know, maybe, but I can't see GreyOrange moving into that world. It's a huge kind of leap to go out of the warehouse and go into areas like that. But what do you think? What do you think of? I mean, I think it's exciting, basically, these autonomous vehicles, driverless vehicles, emerging more and more in places like, I haven't seen one myself, for example, an airport or something. But have you seen any? Have you been in any of these driverless vehicles
Yeah,
or
so I
anything
think
like that?
I would say we do share navigation technologies, within these two industries. As you mentioned, I would say SLAM is something that's common, and the other sensor technologies, like using lidar, and using the right, I would say, filter mechanisms, and things like that. So we do share certain pieces of technologies, but again, the application is still very different. When you're out in the road, you are in a completely, I would say, unstructured environment. Warehouse is still semi-structured. It's not completely structured, but still semi-structured. And also, then the speeds at which cars need to move versus, I would say, these robotic, I would say, technologies need to move is different. So I think there is core technologies that are shared, but the application is still pretty different. And I think, as GreyOrange, I can tell you about the next 4 to 5 years of foreseeable future. We are pretty focused on solving challenges for the fulfillment industry, and and kind of are not planning to kind of go into the autonomous car industry. Yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't expect anything different, really. I mean, It's a completely different market. It's a huge market. It's just very interesting to think about all these changes that are happening, and I'm sure you agree that it's been a
Yeah.
very, very interesting few years, and I'm sure it'll get more and more interesting in the future. Is there any question that I didn't ask? Anything that you'd like to talk about that maybe I missed?
I think maybe I would say it's pretty interesting times in the industry, and I would just request people in retail industry, in e-commerce industry, third-party logistics industry to um, uh, you know understand these technologies in a way, and I would say adopt them, because at the end of the day, uh, you know, with with the kind of challenges modern commerce is throwing at us, technology is going to be a very, very important part to be solving that problem statement.
Okay, Akash. Well, thank you very much for your time and your insights today. And hopefully we'll talk again in maybe a year or two's time, and let's see how many new robots you've brought out and what changes have happened. Good luck with everything in the future. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Send us an email at sales@roboticsandautomationnews.com to register for one of our many upcoming webinars. And if you'd like us to host your webinar, we have a range of options, including long-term lead generation packages and marketing campaigns. We look forward to hearing from you soon.